I think that Hizmet provides a very positive aspect, or very positive facet for Islam in the world today. As you know, there are a lot of stereotypes of what Islam is in the Western world, and I think that Hizmet helps to break those stereotypes. I think. My name is Seth Leech. I am an attorney in Albany, New York. I primarily practice in the area of immigration law. So my goal as a lawyer is to help people to immigrate to the United States. I work with a lot of professionals, investors, businessmen who are trying to establish themselves in the U.S. But I also work with families, individuals who are coming to the United States based on a family relationship, and also people who are seeking protection in the United States through the asylum process. I first came to know of the Hizmet movement probably about 4 years ago. I knew some of the mechanical engineering students and professors at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute who I worked with on immigration issues. And slowly I came to know people at the Turkish Cultural Center and Basil Ucan, and it's been a positive experience from the beginning. I think that Hizmet provides a very positive aspect, or very positive facet for Islam in the world today. As you know, there are a lot of stereotypes of what Islam is in the Western world, and I think that Hizmet helps to break those stereotypes. Hizmet presents a very favorable view of Islam, and probably what Islam is intended to be to the Western world. One of the things that I respect most from the people of the Hizmet movement is the emphasis on education, the desire for education. The people that I've met involved with Hizmet are not people who shun the truth. They're people who are truth seekers in the world. They're people that believe that in educating themselves, husbands, wives, women, children, is the best way to achieve a more ideal society. So the characteristics that I've seen among Hizmet movement members in our area are a high level of education, a high level of sophistication, a high level of respect for other people, and it's something that provided me with a very, very positive view, not only of the Hizmet movement, but also of Turkey and Turkic peoples in general. Hizmet has an emphasis on science and education, which I think is a very positive thing. I mean, from a religious perspective, I know that Fethullah Gulen believes that, and people who are involved with Hizmet believe that science is not inconsistent with religion. And that echoes my own personal view. I don't believe that science is inconsistent with religion. I think a lot of religious people, it doesn't matter what faith, I mean, religious Muslims, religious Christians, religious Jews, and people of other faiths are afraid of science. But I appreciate how Hizmet has embraced science and believes in the consistency of science and faith. You know, obviously, Fethullah Gulen was the person who began the Hizmet movement. So I think his ideas and his ideals have been inculcated into the Hizmet movement. I think he's a very positive force. I've read a number of his writings, and even though my faith, I'm a practicing Christian, when I read what he's written, it resonates with me. It's something that I believe in. It's something that I believe my own faith believes in. So, in my opinion, he is a very positive agent for change in the world. As a Christian, I believe that we should help people regardless of their faith. I think it's important for people of all faiths to help people no matter what their faith is. So I have tremendous respect for the fact that the Hizmet movement seeks to help people in need wherever they are, regardless of their faith, regardless of their views. That is a true humanitarian movement, whenever you can not look at somebody's ideas, not look at somebody's faith, but simply help them because they're your fellow human being. So for that reason, I like what I see in the Hizmet movement. The Hizmet movement, in my opinion, is a very positive global force. It's a force for global change. It's a force for bridging the gap between cultures and different ideas and different faiths. I think that the time in the world is one for interfaith and intercultural dialogue. I think too many faiths, too many people ignore that very important point. If there is interfaith dialogue, if there is intercultural dialogue and mutual respect, we can live in a world that's peaceful. We can live in a world where we have different views, but we respect one another. And I think that's a massive contribution wherever the Hizmet movement has had any influence. People from all faiths should have movements that encourage interfaith dialogue. It doesn't matter whether they are Muslim or Christian or Buddhist or Jewish. I think we are not compromised by other people's views. I am not any less of a Christian because I have Muslims as friends or Buddhists as friends. And I think seeking the commonalities, we all have certain commonalities and certain things that we all have in common. And if we seek those kinds of things, then I think we're in much better shape. So whether it is a Muslim organization or a Christian organization or any other type of organization that are seeking these kinds of goals of togetherness and commonality, it just makes the world a better place. I think interfaith dialogue is worth the effort because so many of the bad things that happen in the world today are based on misunderstanding. They're based on people saying, I'm different and I'm the only one who's right. And I think that for people, for children who are brought up understanding interfaith dialogue, it reduces the possibility of violence in the world, the possibility of prejudices and of other things that are probably the worst diseases that the world suffers from in a social sense. I went to Turkey for 9 days as an invitee of the Turkish Cultural Center. I didn't know what to expect when I went on the trip, but I was very impressed. I saw nothing but progressiveness, kindness, and I really enjoyed seeing a lot of the organizations that are involved with the Hizmet movement. Again, very similar to my own ideas for the world. I was very impressed with the various organizations within Hizmet that are related to freedom of speech. And we visited a human rights organization, we visited a journalistic organization, and the emphasis of freedom of speech, as you know, is a very dear principle to the United States, and I don't think that a free society can exist without free speech. So seeing an emphasis on free speech in other areas of the world, even from an organization that has religious foundations, is a very positive thing. It is good to have a nation. It is good to have cultures with diverse peoples. I think that we are more successful as human beings when there are people of different views around us. One historical point, which I think is interesting, is that our own President Lincoln made sure that members of his cabinet came from a different party. Diversity is a good thing. It causes us to grow in our own views, and it causes us to respect others. And I think so many of the problems in the world today are caused by a lack of respect for other cultures and other peoples. And again, I think that Hizmet encourages that kind of respect. And having that diversity, that respect of different opinions, depends on freedom of speech. It depends on the ability to share one's ideas with other people and not have a negative consequence for doing so. I have been following the news in Turkey, and I believe that in any free society, we should be able to criticize the government, and any criticisms, and I think that's a good symbol of a free society, is criticism of the government. If there is no criticism of the government, then we start to live in something that is a less than free society. So the fact that Hizmet has been able to do this and is doing this is not a bad thing. It is actually the way that a democratic society should be. I think that Hizmet does benefit Turkey. I think Hizmet has historical roots. The philosophy that is behind Hizmet is not a new philosophy. It is a philosophy that I think is culturally Turkish. So I don't think there is any inconsistency with what Hizmet does and the thought of being truly Turkish in any way. I think it is a philosophy that it emanates from, that has historical background in Turkey.
I think probably the Hizmet movement is based upon family, based upon growing the ideas of how to get along, the ideas of true values, of tolerance, of understanding, of having a oneness with a higher being than yourself.
Obviously, for those who encounter it, the Hizmet movement portrays a sense of dialogue and coming together. For those who've never heard of it, obviously it has no meaning whatsoever. I think that is important, that we do experience a common life, a common understanding, and that starts with understanding what the faith commitments are of the other.